In these examples, we're going to continue simplifying square roots. Really all I did was I threw in an extra plus or minus symbol, just because very soon we're going to start dealing with quadratic formula and answers that have plus or minuses in them. So let's go ahead and take a look at how we'll simplify these, although no real new tricks to these, any different than what we just did. So first up, I want to watch out for this. A lot of people are tempted to see this -4/2 and they want to divide that out and simplify that. You absolutely cannot do that. Don't ever do that. Really what happens is, or the way to think about these is, imagine there's that 1 in front of that square root. I mean, it is actually there. The way to check to see if you can simplify these numbers out front is can you simplify all 3 of those numbers? It's either all 3 or nothing, based on the way I'm going to show you how to do this. So since there's that 1 in there, I absolutely cannot simplify that the way it is. But take a look at how this will proceed, and you'll see how we can simplify this eventually. So let's start with that 80, and just like we've done before, let's go ahead and break that down into its factors to try to simplify that. So I'm going to do 40 and 2. You can use any combination you want, 8 and 10, whatever. And we're going to keep factoring until we get down to prime. So maybe I think 40 is going to be 8 and 5. Or whatever you want to use, and then 8 can break down to, I just like to do 2, 2, and 2. I just skip the step because it would be 4 and 2 and whatever. There's all my 2's. So no matter how you factor this down, you should end up with 4 2's and a 5. So recall, to simplify then, you're looking for pairs of numbers. Well, there's a pair of 2's right there. There's another pair of 2's right there. So each of those pairs gets to come out in front of the square root. And since there's 2 pairs, we'll multiply those together. So 2 times 2 gets you a 4. With that single 5 left over. So fine, let's go ahead and rewrite what we have so far. So I've got -4, that's in front, plus or minus. We said we'll have a 4 out front from the 2 and the 2. The square root of 5 is what's left over inside that radical, and then the whole thing is now being divided by 2. And so at this point, here's where we can go back and think about what I was saying at the beginning. To simplify this any further, check all 3 numbers that are outside of the radical, and if they are all divisible by the same thing, then you can and have to do that. So since -4, 4, and 2 are all divisible by 2, I need to go through and do that. I'm not going to do anything with the radical, that's going to by itself, but divide each of those numbers by 2. So I'll end up with a -2, a 2, and a 1. Or if I just get rid of the 1 on the bottom, I guess I have -2 plus or minus 2 square root of 5 as my simplified answer. We're going to come back in a minute and talk about what the actual 2 answers are, because some people are confused on what 2 answers this number represents. Okay, but I want to show you one more example because this one works out just a little bit different. And you may see why right away, because as I go and start to talk about what this square root is, hopefully the square root of 25 jumps out at you right away as being just regular 5. The square root of 25 is 5. So this problem becomes 5 plus or minus. This is just going to be a 2 times a regular 5. The square root of 25 is regular 5. There's no more square root. We've used it. All divided by 2. So again, there's no square root, so we're going to proceed a little bit differently. This becomes 5 plus or minus 10 over 2. And since there's no more square root in this problem, let's go ahead and actually simplify further. The last example, I left it as a plus or minus because I couldn't do anything with that. But since these are all just regular numbers, integers, I can go ahead and split this off, and I can say, well, one answer is 5 plus 10, which is 15 over 2. Which I'll just go ahead and leave as that. If you want to do 7.5, that's fine. And the other answer is 5 minus 10, which is -5 over 2. And so this time, those are my 2 answers. Notice there's no plus or minus in this final answer because we had a perfect square to start with. So those are my 2 answers, but then real quick at the end here, I want to just make a note about this. Some people get real confused because they're like, well, why do you have 2 answers over here, but over on this side you only had a single answer? And I say, we didn't. We did have 2 answers on this side. Those 2 answers, if we do want to split this off, one of them is -2 plus 2 square root of 5, whatever that number is. I mean, it's going to be a nasty irrational decimal, but that number represents one solution. The other solution would be -2 minus 2 square root of 5. So just to be clear, both of these we did get 2 answers for. It's just, could we simplify because we had no square root, or were we stuck with something that looked relatively nasty because of that square root in there?